President Harris. How much do you think the Biden administration is going to have to give up? For instance, I know I saw last week that Senator Sinema from Arizona, a Democrat, said she would not vote, categorically said she would not vote for the $3.5 trillion package. The Biden administration going to have to whittle that down significantly to get it through the Senate, to get all Democrats on board?
I think they are going to have to whittle it down, but I mean, we know they are because of Manchin and Sinema. What they want to take away remains to be seen right now, and I would hope that whatever they want to be taken away, they're forced to defend that publicly, because then we need to know why do you not think X, Y, and Z in the infrastructure package, for example, is important? Why do you think that we don't need, updates on our power lines and public transit and the levees, and you could just go on and on down to every crisis that we are having, bridges, and make them explain that publicly. But I don't know that. I hope that other Democrats do that. You did see some of that happening on cable news this last round, so I hope to see more of that. I think that people keep saying, why doesn't Biden push them to do this? I think that he is doing what he does behind the scenes. Maybe when it comes closer to the time, he will start making public pushes, but it's very effective to have other Democrats on cable shows and pushing forward to say why would you not vote for this? We all need this. And we even saw progressives making this point last time on television, this is what we need, and this is the position of progressives. And I thought that it was made really, really well. It was a very strong point. It was hard to argue with. So I'm just hoping that continues. We have a lot of people who, in the House, for example, who are making these really good arguments and doing it publicly. So.
Well, God bless them, because we need all the help we can get. It's a really serious problem. And it's just one of many issues that I think we've neglected. One of the problems I think Joe Biden has is the absence of any kind of federal government action on key issues like climate change and also immigration, which we discussed in the first half hour with Hope Fry, are just building up until they explode, and there'll be two big problems to deal with. So I hope we can do something. We're going to short break now for our listeners, but we'll hang in there with our viewers. Our guest in this half hour is Sarah Jones, editor-in-chief of Politicus USA, and we'll talk more about the hot political news out of Washington when we get back from these messages. So don't go anywhere. We still have a lot more excitement on Deadline DC for you, so you'll hate yourself if you go away.
What I know about courage.
Welcome back to Deadline DC with Brad Bannon. Our guest in this segment is Sarah Jones, who is the editor-in-chief of Politicus USA. For you spelling wizards, that's POLITICUS USA. And Sarah's Twitter handle is Politicus Sarah, Sarah. If you'd like to contact her or ask her questions about what. Sarah, let's jump to another news story, which I think broke today. I think you wrote about it on Politicus. Today it was revealed that Jim Jordan, the right-wing fanatic who represents, I think, the 13th Congressional District in Ohio, or misrepresents it, whatever the case would be, we have found out that he had said before that during the infamous abortive Capitol coup, he had spoken to President Trump once, but today we learned, I guess, he had several conversations with former President Trump. So what does that mean?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that this whole narrative that Republicans are really trying to suppress and keep from coming to light is starting to leak out. So thanks to the 1-6 committee that many Republicans said we didn't need. Clearly this is exactly why we needed it. The 1-6 committee did ask today for telecom companies to preserve the phone records of Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim Jordan, and other House Republicans. The phone call,
Republicans.
The Rogues Gallery, exactly. And in fact, it also just came out today that Trump's campaign organization, and I don't have the exact details in front of me because this just came out right before, we just published this right before you called, they apparently through the many shell companies, you know how Trump operates financially, nothing's ever up front, put a lot of money into that rally, the 1-6 rally. So what happened is with this phone call, going back to that, Jim Jordan's always, I can't remember. We had a phone call. I don't remember what time it is. Well, it came out that it wasn't just one phone call. There's actually another phone call that took place after they had been evacuated to a safe room. And he and Matt Gaetz apparently begged then President Donald Trump to tell his supporters to stand down. So I think what that tells me, as if I'm not a prosecutor, if I were, I would be using that right there as evidence that they knew that Trump had power over these people, that Trump did indeed incite them and could tell them to stand down. So he was their leader for this attack. I'm only saying that that's what I get out of that. That's not what anybody else has said. But if I were prosecuting this, that's the point I would be making. But now you're starting to see all of this, the haze that's been around this start to fall away. And I think the details are actually going to be, and the facts are going to be so horrific. And I think people are going to wonder why it took so long to uncover this and why these folks have been allowed to remain in positions of power.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I agree with you. I always thought the best argument for having a January 6th Congressional Investigatory Committee was, it seems to me there's at least some evidence of connection or collusion between the Trump administration, maybe the president himself, and certain right-wing members of Congress, collusion into the, what I consider the tragic and sad events of January 6th, where basically, devastating to a democracy, where a group of right-wingers tried to overturn the will of the American people. And it seems to me there's... Okay, we're coming back. Welcome back to Deadline DC, and welcome back to our radio listeners. Our guest in this half hour is Sarah Jones, who is the editor-in-chief of Politicus USA. We're discussing the hot political news of the week. Sarah, let me ask you about this. In the last 2 weeks or so, there's been a significant decline in President Biden's job ratings. Some of it is due to due to what people are seeing in Afghanistan at the Kabul airport, but his approvals for handling the economy and also for fighting the pandemic are down. My question is, what can Joe Biden do to get his groove back? I mean, he's really slipped significantly in the polls, and it's vital for him to have power over Congress to resuscitate his approval ratings, and certainly it's important going into the midterm elections next year. So what do you think Joe Biden should do and can do to get his groove back?
Well, first of all, I think we have to remember that these polls are being taken in a snapshot in time right now, and Biden's facing adversity on a number of levels. So the polls are going to drop I think he will bring his polling will come back, and that his polling with his supporters, is going to come back when he delivers some accomplishments, the reconciliation budget bill, voting rights, and circumstances start shifting. And a lot of his polling drop, as you mentioned, wasn't about Afghanistan, but about the Delta variant and the impact on the economy. I think that COVID fatigue is really high among the American people right now. They're angry at the unvaccinated. They're tired of the pandemic. They want this whole mess to be over. I think they look at Joe Biden, at the president, and they're thinking, why can't you mandate vaccines? Why can't you mandate masks? Why can't you do more to end this? And of course, because of the way our country is set up and the importance of local control, he cannot do a lot of those things. But I also do think that he will. He started off with the carrot, get vaccinated so you don't have to wear a mask, and then Delta came and that had to go away for the most part. And I think now you're going to see he's going to bring the stick, and he's got to, because people are dying, and we have these red state governors who are putting people's lives at risk. And there was a modeling done for Texas that I saw that if things continue the way it is, 800,000 people will die of COVID under Governor Abbott's watch. So I think that Biden's numbers will start to tick up as he takes a stronger stand he convinces people to get vaccinated. And I also think that, we have to remember that Biden has gotten a lot of terrible press about the pulling out of Afghanistan. And just for context, let's remember, this was a war that we were never poised to win. And no one was ever able to define what winning would look like. The press should have been praising, really, what has been a pretty incredible feat of coordination and bravery for all of our service members on the ground. We have gotten and evacuated 100,700 people as of 3 a.m. this morning. I think that Biden has actually done really well. That doesn't mean that we're not absolutely devastated, all of us, about the deaths of 13 service members and the civilians during the attack on the airport. But I just think that he has been hammered in the press. And you see this over and over again when you have a Democratic president. There was no unity. When we had a terrorist attack on this country, there was unity. Everyone came together. Didn't like what Bush was doing all the time, but they came together. And you didn't see that. It was just the minute this happened, it was Biden's fault. He got hammered over and over and over again. That didn't help. But I do think that people are going to see, for example, his own supporters. One of the things that he put forward is he wants unfettered humanitarian access to Afghanistan. I think that's part of a foreign policy that his supporters voted for in an election that he won, by over 7 million votes. I think some of those people are going to come back. But right now, it's just, tragedy, travesty. Everything is pretty dark looking. The Delta variant came back, and I think it's killing a lot of people. It's depressing.
Tragedy and travesty, you're right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think in the last analysis, Americans will judge Joe Biden on two issues which come together. The state of the economy and its success in fighting the Delta variant. Now, it's interesting to me that before the last few weeks, when there's spread of the Delta variant, the Biden administration had made a lot of progress on the economy. We've created, in the 6 or 7 or 8 months he's been president, he has created millions of new jobs. He's got much needed money out to hard-pressed working families, one of which in the form of the child tax credit. So he was getting, he was getting credit for moving the economy forward. forward. And then, of course, the Delta variant hit, and that soured American economic prospects. But in the last analysis, I think if he deals with those two factors, that he'll regroup. And, of course, a big part of that is passing the infrastructure program that is now being considered by Congress. I think if that gets done and money gets out to the economy and the president continues to make progress fighting the Delta variant, he will rebound. Let me ask you one more question. Two of the, you've mentioned them both, Governor Abbott in Texas and Governor DeSantis in Florida, both have presidential aspirations. And my question is, I actually am in the middle of writing a column for The Hill about this, is does your hardcore stand against vaccinations, does that improve or impair their presidential aspirations? And I thought, in some sense, it probably improves it because they're playing to the diehard Republican base that they need to win the primary. And my guess is they figure, well, the important thing is winning over the diehard conservatives because we can do that. We can win the nomination and metaphorically bludgeon Joe Biden to death in his re-election campaign. So is this smart politics or bad politics for the two deadly governors?
Well, I think it's. I think they think it's smart politics, and it. I guess, given the state of the Republican Party right now, it might be smart politics. I just want to mention that 5 children under 16 have died of COVID-19 in Florida in the last 4 weeks, and so you ask yourself, does killing kids hurt him with conservatives, DeSantis? And it's a no. It doesn't. It doesn't hurt him. That's coming from the pro-life party. So I think if we look through the Trump political lens of what both of the Abbott and DeSantis are doing, they're playing the authoritarian cowboy strongman, and that's, little mini Trumps. The press is eating that up. I don't see them getting a lot of pushback. It's like, he's staying the course even though people are dying. That's not a positive, although it doesn't look great for Biden when he changes and he has to pivot quickly because the science changes, because we have a variant coming in. He does pivot. That's what a leader needs to do, whether it hurts them politically or not. They need to pivot. Republican Party knows that anyone who wants a political future with them has to show contempt for public health and basic measures taken to mitigate the pandemic. So I think it is helping both of them right now. They look like big heroes for letting so many people die. I don't know how that would work in a presidential campaign. I really think that once you need to start winning over independents, which they need to win an election, unless they're going to continue,
Yeah, you'd like to think so. It would hurt them with independence. So it's a crazy world we live in. Thanks, Sarah, for joining us today. That's all the time we have left. I want to thank our guest, Hope Fry from Project Lifeline, Sarah Jones from Politicus USA, and also thank you to our executive producer, Mark Grimaldi, who makes sure the Deadline DC trains run on time, and believe me, it needs a conductor badly. Leslie Marshall will be back tomorrow. Be safe and be strong in these troubled times. Make sure you tune in to Deadline DC Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, or the podcast anytime at periscope.tv/Brad Bannon.